when this country is upside down in debt. There's a record 17 trillion in debt, a record 12 trillion in mortgage debt, a record 1.6 trillion in auto debt, a record 1.6 trillion in student debt, which happens to be the largest asset of this bankrupt country. Yeah, you heard me right. It is the largest single asset of the United States. And we are not prepared, I think, for very difficult, tough times. And I think what you could see by this, perhaps, is a acceleration of the BRICS formation to push away from the Western hegemony. I think we will see things very, very, I think things will unfold very, very quickly from this point forward as it pertains to sides being chosen, alliances that will be formed. I think there's a lot more to meet the eye. That there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. And although we can't see it right now, I think within the next few months we will start to see a lot of things accelerate away from the dollar, away from the West. And I think this country is not in position to handle what that really means, because we are so massively in debt. We have so little in terms of assets. The micro is the game within the game. The macro is the game. And,
there
are times to look at micro, I guess, but the macro perspective, the broader perspective, to me is the only thing that really matters. And that's why very often I repeat myself. And that's why very often I'm early. I've been saying, there was a time in 2019, late 2019, 2020, where I'm the only person out there talking about the BRICS.
Right.
I wasn't talking micro back then. I was talking a big picture: de-dollarization, the rise of the Belt Road, the reclassification of gold, and now all these countries joining together, buying gold and repatriating it. Something big is happening here. Yeah, the micro, you could look at each one of these pieces, but to me, you take those pieces and put them together and they say a much bigger thing. And it's just the pieces in and of themselves don't have the same significance as all of them put together. And then looking at them, oh, geez, could this all be part of a bigger picture? That to me is the most important thing. And the people who get upset when silver falls don't understand it, or they own it for the wrong reasons.
Right.
And you have a little girl, she's just a few years old, and if I were you, I would be accumulating silver every chance I get, and hope to heaven I never need to use it. And if you look at it in that micro perspective, oh geez, it's down 50 cents today. I mean, yeah, it can be frustrating, it can be disheartening, even for looking at it through a macro perspective, because it's very counterintuitive to the way it should be. But ask yourself, if it's so counterintuitive to the way it should be, if the biggest money in the world is accumulating it while the 4 or 5 central commercial banks suppress the price, and we know that to be the case, then is it more important? Because why are they suppressing it? And why are the big sovereign governments around the world standing for delivery, draining the exchanges? These are the bigger questions. And looking at just the price action, as we've said on your show, I don't know how many times, it is the greatest tool of misdirection. No one understands it because the price is misdirecting. Well, if it's such in short demand, man, then why is it so cheap? Why isn't the price going up? And that's why it's such an effective tool, because they are able to control people's emotions by controlling the price. And emotions are much more of a motivating factor to most people than logic is. And, we're motivated by fear and greed, and fear being the strongest motivator. So people come in because they're greedy and they want to make money. Oh, everyone's talking about this being so undervalued, and then it loses value. Counterintuitively, they get scared, they sell. Motivation is everything. And the people pulling the strings understand this. But what they really didn't count for when they started suppressing the price is that half of the world would say, fine, we'll play your game, but we'll stand for delivery. And that is why there is a shortage up on the large exchanges.
COMEX.
But it doesn't register with people, because I am saying best availability, lowest premiums we've had in years. Well, it hasn't trickled down yet. It will. And I'm very consistent when people say, my God, where do we put our money? And that's when everything like that disappears. And it goes from being flush to not, just like that, just that fast.
Hmm.
Well, the BRICS Bank has officially announced a 3-year de-dollarization plan, and it's what they're going to do is lend and transact in local currencies until they come out with their common settlement currency, and this is being done to, I guess, diminish the number of transactions that are done in U.S. dollars.
Right.
Again, you have Putin came out and said that he's calling for an alliance to reform the global finance system. The BRICS dumped 123 billion in U.S. treasuries over the past several months this year. And you're talking China, Brazil, India, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia. They're all dumping our bonds. Currently, BRICS now holds over 50% of the global oil production. And now you got Macron from France. Even our allies are saying that the world order is changing and the situation is getting more complicated, and which runs the risk of weakening the West and Europe in particular. You got Argentina, who now is joining. They're the largest producer of natural gas in South America, and they control the Straits of Magellan, the very important shipping lanes. You got Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Egypt, and Iran with the oil production and the Straits of Hormuz. You're talking the fastest growing economy in Africa with Ethiopia. Well, these are the new countries that have joined. There are 22 countries that have already expressed interest in joining next year. It's happening slowly, methodically. They're doing it the right way. There's a Chinese curse. It says, "May you live in interesting times." And, I'm old school. I was born in 1970. I mean, I remember what it was like to have to remember all your friends' phone numbers because, no one had cell phones. And I remember what it was like when time just crawled on by and nothing eventful happened but once every very so often. When I started doing these podcasts, I've used this term a lot lately, this logarithmic decay, which is little by little by little by little by little, then all at once, kind of like the waterfall. When I started doing these podcasts 4 or 5 years ago, it was little by little by little. I mean, it was just like, every few weeks or a month, there'd be something really new to grab your attention. In 2019, 2017, the banks were repatriating their gold. 2019, the Bank of International Settlements reclassifies gold. 2020, you get the Belt Road Initiative. I mean, there was 1 or 2 events every year or two.
Yeah.
And now it's like bang, 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 bang,
Every
bang, bang,
month.
every single day. It's
Yeah.
accelerating.